This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Lucas Holst, our honored patron and Switch Knight. Hey everyone, I'm Casey.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Switch enthusiasts. And we have an amazing, spectacular, and okay show for you today.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. We have a big announcement. We can finally confirm a few events for the crew. We have a couple of great reviews to go over, a little follow-up on the ARMS that's been picking up some momentum, decent bit of news, and lots of listener feedback to go through and some questions from you guys. And I just gotta say, we're just a little lucky I could even do this show this week. Did you, JV, see my message about why I might not have been able to talk this episode?
Yeah, I was kind of curious about what happened, and I'm still a little ambiguous about it. What happened, Casey? Tell us.
All I'm going to say, and I'm going to leave it to the imagination of the listeners, that a cup of iced coffee looks remarkably similar to a scalding cup of freshly drained bacon grease.
Ooh.
Just leave that there and put in your mind why I might not have been able to speak. In fact, I'm still having a little bit of a hard time talking right now. My mouth is still a little hurt and sore. So I am going to make this show tighter than usual. So let's just get into everything we have to get into before I start bleeding out my lips.
You are a trooper for doing this, Casey, and that's why we're here.
Thank you very much. But the first, I do have to get off my chest, though. We have confirmed you've gotten something very important in the mail this week.
Indeed, it's right here in my hands at this very moment. I have the unopened box of the Nintendo Classic Mini.
Woo!
It's the NES, the Classic. That is so hard to get, apparently.
Yes, and you're not just showing that off to our audience just because you want them to know how cool and hip you are.
Yeah, we're actually giving this thing away.
Yep.
In our Mario Kart tournaments that we've been hyping for quite a while now.
Yes. If you haven't heard about this before, tonight and tomorrow, I'm going to email everyone who's already applied for this and signed up just to confirm that they're still involved. And I'm going to post the sign-up sheet for anyone who hasn't entered yet, and you could still join up until, I'll say, Sunday this weekend.
Right.
If you want to enter, this is going to be a Mario Kart tournament. We have a lot of entries, so I'm probably going to do the thing I wanted to do where I'm going to make schedules where we're going to have full groups of about 8 to 10 people racing at a time in a Grand Prix, and the rankings from those Grand Prix will determine who moves on to semifinals, finals, etc., and we will determine a final winner through that, and that winner will get the NES Classic. So it's going to be a few races, it's going to be a few times you're going to meet, and I'll probably post the first round of competition next Wednesday.
Right, and honestly, this is really exciting. It took us a while to get this for you guys, but now that it's in our hands, we can finally fire off this tournament that we've been talking about for so long. I can't wait to give this away to the worthy winner of our tournament, Casey.
Yes, definitely. And there's a lot of competition, so it should be really fun. And I really want to thank everybody for their patience with me as we got this together. It's my first big contest I'm running here, so I definitely could have done this smoother and faster if I had maybe thought it out a little harder, but I think things have worked out, and we plan to have many more big contests like this.
Right. Our primary concern was making sure we had the prize in hand, because
yes.
And now that we do, we're 100% full throttle for this tournament. Let's go for it.
And I definitely have to just thank one more time Haven Games. He's the one who sent us the NES Classic all the way from Asia. So that's why it took so long. But really, we appreciate him giving us this hard-to-find little prize there.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
All right. So why don't we just dive right into the playtime and talk about... We've both been playing something fun this week and interesting. So we should have some good stuff to talk about.
Yes. Playtime, let's go.
All right, now my mouth has been moving. I'm starting to ache, so I'm going to let you go first and tell us about the game that you got to try out, at least start playing this week.
All right, okay, so the game I've been playing this week is a roguelike, which is a genre that's really taken off on the Switch.
Yeah, there's been a few.
Yeah, there have been quite a bit, and I believe there's just more coming through and through. But the game I'm talking about is called GoNNER. It's a procedurally generated roguelike platformer game, and I gotta say, I really dig it. The game itself is relatively simple. You're a small little character. I believe you're like a anthropomorphized little water droplet.
Okay.
And you move around the level shooting at enemies to collect these purple glyphs for you to purchase various items at the end of each level. There are 3 items in the game. There are heads that give you passive abilities that change your movement, physics, or health. Backpacks that give you active abilities that you can take advantage of, like being able to reload your gun or throwing out defensive abilities, and guns, which give you different ways to shoot things, like scatter shots or single shots, or even cool giant beams that you can shoot out at enemies. There is a limited amount of ammo, so you have to be a bit mindful of that. And honestly, overall, the rhythm of the game is pretty simple. You're dropped into a procedurally generated level, and you really just want to kill as many enemies in the level as you can to collect glyphs. And the glyphs let you buy new items, and then from there you move on to the next level.
Now, are the items only good for that run through, or is there anything that like stays with you for multiple like times you play it?
Yeah, that's actually something that I like about this game. Let's say you get hit by an enemy, your head, your backpack, and your gun flies off, and you have to platform your little body nub around to pick up your stuff again. But if you get hit again without all your stuff, you die and you're sent to a death room for you to start over. But if you unlocked any new items, your new items are readily available in the death room, and you can just start the new run with the items that you've earned.
Cool.
Yeah. So once you just keep unlocking new items, you always have them readily available. So even if you die so many times, it still feels like you're making progress, which I like.
Yeah. I like that because those kind of games, the thing that frustrates me is usually there's like an ideal loadout for the way I like to play them.
Right.
And then I'm just like playing through the game over and over, just feeling frustrated until I get that loadout from the random drops that happen to be in there. And like kind of like Tumbleseed, where if I don't find the power-ups that I like, I just kind of feel like, what's the point?
Yeah, the gameplay doesn't feel quite as ideal for you because it's not the way it is. And losing feels even more painful because you worked hard to get that loadout and then you lost it.
Yeah, and I was like, I have to play 4 times now before I even see that item again.
Yeah, right, exactly. And the way they set it up here, I like that system. And now I do also want to bring up the art style of the game, since it's actually a pretty unique take for a platformer. Everything has kind of an intentionally hand-drawn feel to it. It almost feels like everything's being drawn by pastel-colored markers over a blackboard.
I don't think I could think of anything else that's similar to it than that, yeah.
Yeah, the way the things move kind of remind me of, if you remember Loco Roco from the PSP.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, it's a really unique art style, and you start the game, you get dropped into what seems like an empty space, and you move forward into a dark abyss, and then you start seeing platforms and walls materialize in front of you. In the same vein, the platforms that were visible start to dematerialize, so your amount of visibility is limited to the area around your character.
Oh, that's how they procedurally generated. I see, like kind of like you have a field of vision.
Right. Well, I feel like the level is already built, but you are only able to see a certain area amount around you. But it's really cool because it has a cool, distinct visual look to it, but that type of limit makes the screen not look too cluttered, which can be a problem with this type of game.
Okay. I think I saw in the video, like, even if you couldn't see the platforms near you, like, you could still see the enemies kind of, like, lurking around in the distance.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you kind of know what direction that you need to go in. And then once you approach certain areas of the level, okay, I'm gonna have to jump to this area, then to that area, then over here, over there. You never really feel lost despite having visual limitations. So it just really just adds to the style and makes sure that nothing is too busy on the screen for you to get lost in.
How long does it usually take you to die?
Probably about 10-15 minutes per run.
Oh, that's pretty good for that kind of game.
Yeah. You once you complete a little level, you teleport into a different level, and which is another series of rooms and enemies, and then you just keep building up your gear until you can get past the levels into apparently a final boss. Okay. And it's fun. Honestly, I'm actually a real big fan of this game, and I didn't expect to be as big a fan as I was. Because, roguelikes can feel frustrating and annoying to get to.
Is it hard overall? Is it like really?
Yeah, it's definitely hard, but I never really felt like I was killed unjustly.
Okay, that's cool.
It didn't feel unfair or unwarranted, and I never felt like the controls were working against me like a game like Has Been Heroes. That the controls kind of felt like it was working against me, but in this it felt intuitive and smooth. I believe there is a set end to the game, so you can technically beat this game if you go through it in like 25 or 30 minutes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but due to just the sheer difficulty and the amount of required execution, you're gonna die before that time.
Yeah.
So, as you keep playing, you get better gear or better items that let you hold your ideal loadout for your run.
Cool.
And once you get good enough and complete the run, actually finish the game, you just work on improving your score and time from there.
What's the deal with the whale?
I believe the whale is your little water droplet's companion, and you're trying to find something for that whale. Honestly, the game didn't have any dialogue or text at all, except for the basic menus, really. Okay. So it didn't really hold your hand, and the game just gives you subtle visual clues to nudge you into figuring out how things work. But, they don't spell out anything. There's no dialogue. It's a lot of it is just inferred, and there is an elegance and brilliance to that, but you can get a bit lost if you don't know how to look at things.
I would love to hear if you actually manage to beat this game before the next episode or two.
I think I'm gonna try. I feel like I can get there. It's not that long of a game, and it's one of those games that after a certain point it just becomes score chase. So gotcha. if that type of replayability is what you're looking for, go for GoNNER. Cool. Honestly, for the price that it is, even if you don't like score chases or roguelikes, I say you should try this out.
Do you know how much it is?
It's $10, I believe. Yeah, there's honestly not too much more to say about the game. It's simple, but the simplicity of it is what makes it an elegantly designed game.
Very cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right. I got to try out something. Again, it kind of fits. This is kind of my thing that I like seeing with the Switch, and it's given me an interesting insight into, is another game that I'm familiar with from playing on the iPhone that they brought over to the Switch. And this one's a little bit more of a robust title compared to the previous ones they've done this with. But this is Oceanhorn, which I really think, people, when I was talking about Binding of Isaac, and so many people said it's like a Zelda-like, I did not feel that fit that game. I felt like that was a very big stretch. Oceanhorn is very clearly, though, a Zelda-like, very specifically a Wind Waker-like, if I would go that far.
Okay.
In that it almost feels like they really were just going for that feel from the get-go. It has a little bit more story and narration than any Zelda game. While the main character doesn't speak to characters in the game, he does kind of have a narration where sometimes you'll read or you'll hear him say what he's thinking, or as he writes the story into his journal. And then I went to the island to discover the history of this lost people, and whatever. Okay,
so does the game seem a bit more story oriented than Zelda then?
I'd say a little bit more, just a little bit more in that. So I haven't played that much, so I can't go too deep. But I've played about 3 or 4 hours since I just downloaded it the other day. And it opens up with what turned out to be like this dream sequence of your father writing a goodbye note to you and talking about, what happened to your mother, losing her a while ago, and he leaves you her necklace and your weapons and stuff like that. And then he goes off and he confronts the Oceanhorn, which is basically a sea monster that just comes up and meets him, and presumably he dies fighting or something like that.
Oh, wow.
yeah. It's like apparently like it's been hunting him or something like that. It kind of sets a really creepy, dark mood, and it kind of sets up the Oceanhorn, this beast, as a dire antagonist to the game.
Kind of like the Calamity Ganon of the game then.
I guess so. In that he's like not trapped, like he's out there, and yeah, he does loom, and he has this sound. The reason he's called that, I think, is because he has this very ominous, like kind of like horn sound before he approaches. Like
okay.
Yeah.
Like an ocean horn.
Oh, yeah, like kind of like a tanker would make if you ever had heard one of those going by. Ships
okay, yeah, I gotcha.
So you wake up, and I would say it's like Zelda after that, in that you are pretty free to explore. They don't really have too much of a rail for you, but then again, you don't have like a vast space to explore. You're on an island, and they don't tell you, go to this guy to find out where to go to the next place. You just kind of are set free to go fight some monsters, run into some caves, find items, and then as you eventually stumble upon the right person to talk to, they'll say, oh yeah, I think it's about time that you go and find out what happened to your father. Maybe you should visit this island. And now there's an island unlocked on the map that if you get on your boat, you can go and sail to. And they actually do the thing it was kind of one of those complaints in Wind Waker, is like how much time it just took to cross the ocean to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I know they sped that up in the Wii U version, but that was that was a primary complaint.
Yeah, I think, see, right now I'm on short little trips, but I believe that they're going to add more things as the game progresses to do on the ship. Like, I think that they're going to add things that attack you in your boat that you'll have to fight off. I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere, but we'll see. And so I got to one or two other islands, and I don't feel that the game is hand-holding me through anything. I feel like a Zelda game where I'm just kind of free to poke my nose around. But then again, like I said, it's pretty confined spaces, so you're not going to get lost. You're going to talk to the right guy or find the cave you're supposed to go into sooner or later to get the item or to advance the plot however it needs to happen there. And the plot right now is that I'm seeking out 3 sigils, these,
right.
Yeah, that are supposed to be some relics from before the Oceanhorn and these 2 other beasts destroyed civilization and left it in the vestiges it is today.
Even bringing that up, 3 sigils. Look, yeah. I'm looking at the Oceanhorn interface, and it is almost exactly the Zelda interface. I feel like they're definitely not hiding the fact that this was heavily inspired by Zelda.
And you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing, because right now there isn't a Zelda title other than Breath of the Wild, and that's a totally different type of game than classic Zeldas were. I think this is a little bit more closer to something like, let's say, Link to the Past, or like Wind Waker, like those kind of games.
Right. That it even looks like Link Between Worlds a little bit.
Yeah. It has that.
Yes.
It has that kind of thing, and I think it's not a bad unless you have to play as Link. I think that people will appreciate, and I played this on iPhone, and it is amazing for an iPhone game. I think it's pretty good as a Switch game, and as a $15 indie title, I mean, it's a great pickup for people who are just looking for something to play if they've just finished, let's say, Breath of the Wild, but they still want more of that, Zelda exploration and fun.
Yeah.
But I'm still starting, so I have a lot to discover about this game, so we'll see how it goes in the weeks to come.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting proposal, since you're right, this did originally come out on mobile platforms, but it's purpose was to bring that Zelda experience to a mobile platform so you can play it on the go. Right. Now that it's on the Switch, is there really anything that would pull people to play Oceanhorn instead of something like Breath of the Wild?
Here's the thing. I mean, everyone's played Breath of the Wild, and you know what? By now, I think more and more people are beating it. And, right. There's always something to explore in that. But again, this is a lighter style game. And, I think it might appeal to some who just didn't want to or who are drawing down with Zelda. Then again, we're about to mention a little later, the DLC pack is coming up this week. So they might have more reason to go back to it. So, maybe you're just looking for something a little lighter and a little more classic style. Because, people are always asking us, when's Wind Waker or something like that going to be brought over to like Virtual Console?
Yeah. And honestly, this is a $15 game. By the looks of it, it's pretty well built for that price tag. So
right. I mean, look, I'm just happy to see more of these. This is like a very ambitious. This is one of the most ambitious mobile games I had seen, and like I said, I felt that the Switch is a great home for those more ambitious mobile games, and I think that now that this is here, and I think if it does well, I hope to invite more of these kind of games to come over and find a second home here on the Switch. Because honestly, some of the most popular games these days are on there. I would love to see something like Clash Royale come to Switch. I'd love to see some of those really big titles make it over here.
Yeah.
So how you been doing with ARMS this week?
Oh man, my arms are so tired from armsing so much.
No, yeah, you know what? I thought you were joking at first, but you know what? You're right. I've been playing all week, and man, boy, are my arms tired.
Yeah, if you're really getting into it, it can be quite a bit of a workout, especially if you're not super used to moving around as much.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned last week, I usually play on standard controls, but I've been trying out motion controls just so I can compare and see if I really like standard better.
Mm-hmm.
I do like standard better, but it might be informed by the fact that I play primarily Bark and Bite.
I gotcha.
That might just be the control scheme that fits that character specifically.
I have come over to motion controls as well. I started playing it this week, and since I was able to play, the one-player mode where I didn't feel like I had to play the best I could at the moment, I started playing with motion controls, and it still seemed like total nonsense to me at first. But after like 2 or 3 rounds of getting used to it, it clicked, and it made the most sense. And I love the very subtle controls of, like, here's the specific thing. When you play with the button controls, you typically throw a straight punch and then curve it, whereas it's a lot easier with the motion controls to start your fist at an angle and then continue to curve it even after you've launched it at a different angle than normal. And I just noticed a lot more subtlety, and this game really does demand for that higher level play. Yeah, that subtle, because like, if you play against Ribbon Girl, you'll know what I mean, people. Like, if she's jumping around there, like, the first time I fought her, I had no idea how to hit her in the air. It's just like, she's jumping around, and I'm like, I don't know, until she lands, I can't hit her. But no, you start to learn how to throw those punches to anticipate where she's going and just land right where you need them to go. And it takes a lot of practice, but I think the motion controls were really helpful with that.
Yeah, which is awesome, because I've heard sentiment about ARMS being just another tech demo for the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're actually digging into the game and trying to get competitive with it, you just realize how deep this game can actually get.
Yeah, I forced myself to play through. Now, I've beaten up to level rank 5 right now.
Okay, that's impressive.
I have played it once with Kid Cobra, and I went through another playthrough with Master Mummy because I wanted to try very different play styles like that. Yeah, and I can see the how the tactics change. Like, I could not understand Master Mummy when we did the test punch, but I'm kind of seeing this really interesting game he can play where he forces you to play defensively and to use block a lot. And then you play this game where it's like, I'm going to block and I'm going to heal and I'm going to force you to try to throw me, but I'm ready for it. And if you can reflex, if you have good enough reflexes, you can throw one of those heavy punches right through his throw because you know it's coming, and just punch him with a really heavy fist after you've baited out those throws.
Right, and it disrupts their plan, definitely. I believe the common sentiment is that Master Mummy is an anti-meta character, because, the primary meta right now is being able to dip and dash and move fast and get your hits in really quickly. Mm-hmm. If you try to be very evasive and fall back, Master Mummy's going to just heal up again.
Yes.
And if your immediate reaction to him guarding is a throw, that becomes incredibly predictable. Yeah. So, there's just a lot of nuance to this game, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, no, that, and like I say, a Kid Cobra plays totally differently. He is about that dashing around, but then he has to strike really fast like a cobra, and I like the difference between those, and I'm going to try to learn more variety of them like that there, but now that I want to play ranked mode this week, and I want to try. Have you done any online play yet?
No, I've been practicing in Grand Prix mode and versus modes as much as possible.
Yeah,
because I just don't want to. I want to jump into ranked feeling very confident that I can win.
Me too, yeah.
In a consistent basis, and I'm not quite there yet.
I should play more of the people in the chat now this week, because I could do that during my lunch breaks. I'm getting a little spoiled because I'm getting spoiled from my motion controls, though, because when I play it on the train, I have to learn the button controls now, and it's changing how I look at the game.
Right, your play style and perspective.
And it's kind of jarring to like retrain myself to play it both ways, but it's getting there.
Yeah, in my case, I know for a fact that I will be playing it more in handheld mode, so I'm not going to be able to practice the motion controls as much as I'd like. So I figured I might as well dive deep into standard controls and just get good with that.
How do you feel about that whole system of unlocking new weapons in it?
It's hit or miss. It gives you a reason to get gold for to give your character more options, but it's a little tricky. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the fact that if you get repeats of the same arms, it's just an incremental bonus and upgrade. But it doesn't seem like it's incredibly meta shifting right now, so I think we really have to live with the game a bit longer to see just how drastic that is.
Yeah, I hope I don't have to grind like with the same character too much. I don't want to feel like I'm forced to play with the same character too much just because I want to unlock everything. I want to feel like I could switch around a little bit more,
Well, yeah. And I agree, though I do like the fact that if you play more with a character, you unlock more options, and that really just becomes your character until you want to switch. So if you unlock more arms for a specific character, you get invested in that, in improving with that guy.
Yeah, and also, I guess it also serves the purpose. One of the biggest complaints people have generally with fighting games is that they don't have a lot of things to do solo mode, and it kind of gives you something to work towards by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And the mini games have kind of grown on me a little bit, only in that I feel like I need a slight diversion sometimes when I've been fighting so long. I do enjoy the basketball and the other mini games, and all those things. Only because I'm like, I've been fighting. Yeah, I guess I do need to like just refresh my brain and look at this game in a different way for at least a few minutes.
Especially with in the Grand Prix mode, it is a nice break. It's a nice way to break up one note fighting feeling that you get.
Right.
It's good.
All right, so that's our assignment this week. We're going to play some online, all right? We're going to play somebody. Even if you're not comfortable, or you and me, just play, and even if one of us stinks, it's fine. We just got to try it out a little bit more. All right, let's get into the news rundown, and let's see what's been going on.
All right, let's go for it.
So, following up on what we just were talking about, there is an update to ARMS that has been released, the 1.1.0, and this added a couple of interesting little features to the game already.
Yeah, they added what's called the Arena mode, and this mode focuses on serious one-on-one matches that can be played via friends, local, or the new LAN play mode. Up to 4 players can be in the arena, and players not currently fighting can watch as spectators.
What's the LAN play mode? What's the difference between that and local mode?
Yes, you can connect directly to other docked switches, which is good for latency type issues.
Okay, that's pretty cool, and I guess that's really good. Like, if you have like a real tournament setup that you want people to be able to watch, that probably fits in with what they're trying to do. Like, that's a big esport boon for something like this.
Absolutely, and Arena mode is actually a really good update as well, since when you're in a party mode, it's not going to be necessarily always focused on one-on-one matches. You might be forced into 2v1s or free-for-alls or co-op modes, and if you guys are really competitive players and you just want to do serious one-on-one fights, Arena mode is perfect for you.
Speaking of more competitive modes, Splatoon 2 has League Battle mode announced. They showed off, well, they described that in a few lines.
Yeah, so it looks like the League Battle mode allows you to make groups of 2 or 4 and hop into a dedicated league for a 2-hour period. And your group actually competes with other groups to see how many points you can earn within that period. And at the end of that 2-hour period, the results of the league battle will be displayed in a rank, which is so cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I wonder how many different groups you can get teamed up against there. Like, how is it going to be like a round robin kind of setup, or is it just going to like randomly switch you around like that?
I think this is going to be so cool. And even within our community, if we can get at least 20 people to do a SwitchCast league, all of you guys can form teams of 2 or teams of 4, and we can just duke it out amongst each other, and that could be a tournament.
Speaking of hardcore competition, Pac-Man Versus was announced to be coming to the Namco Museum collection of games for the Switch. Did you ever have the joy of playing Pac-Man Versus?
Oh, I loved Pac-Man Versus, Casey. You know, I'm just a big fan of asymmetrical multiplayer games, and Pac-Man Versus is one of the first asymmetrical multiplayer experiences that really clicked with my group back in the day.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they're going to implement this specifically in the Switch version, because the way it worked, at least in previous iterations, would be the ghost players would all be looking at the screen, and they would just see on the map what's around the ghosts. But the player who was the Pac-Man, he would be using either, let's say in some versions, he'd have a 3DS or a GBA hooked up, or he'd have the tablet for the Wiimote. And on his screen, he would see like a normal Pac-Man game where you could see where everything is. So he'd have that advantage. But the ghosts, they only see like small bubbles of the screen. They kind of have to share information amongst themselves. So I wonder if they're going to have it where, like, I don't know, like, are you going to need like a second Switch to be like the Pac-Man player's screen?
It's likely to require a Switch for each player. I believe that mode is probably going to be accommodated pretty easily. There's also a chance that you can have one Switch docked at the same screen while a secondary Switch is playing as Pac-Man himself.
That's what I think is the more likely. Like, you need just the 2 Switches, one docked, and one kind of serving as the Wii U tablet, so to speak.
Yeah. And
going from one brilliant idea to another.
The Joy-Con swivel grip. Did you take a look at this?
I looked at this. So this is it's kind of a plastic sheath for the, your Joy-Cons. It serves as, I guess, just as a normal protector for it. But when you take it out of its dock or, detach it from the Switch, like little wings come off the ends of it. So it kind of looks like a more of a controller type handle for it.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty clever way to add a bit more of a grip to a Joy-Con without adding extra bulk to it.
Yeah, it serves a dual purpose if this works. I'm kind of looking at it, and I'll link a picture to this in the show notes. I feel like I'm not sold on how durable the wings that you're going to be holding on to. Like, it looks like it might break under like stressful use.
Yeah, it's actually something we would probably want to try ourselves to give a more definite answer to. But I'm pretty impressed at how novel the idea itself is.
Moving on, we have Snake Pass also got an update last week. I'm just going to remind people about that because this week they announced a Snake Pass Summer Solstice sale. Isn't that catchy? It's called the Summer Sale.
Summer Sale.
Gotta go with this.
Yeah.
You can get the game for 40% off. And they just mentioned some DLC coming up as well for it. Well, hinted at it.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, now what do you think? Again, another piece of pretty cool engineering for Switch convenience. The Nintendo Switch Pocket Dock SP.
Right, so this is a Nintendo Switch, a full-fledged dock that looks just like a Game Boy Advance SP.
It is actually, I think, a modified Game Boy Advance SP.
Yeah,
They just realized it was about the same size as all the innards of an actual Switch dock.
And hey, this guy made it work. So, hey, sure, it's pretty cool.
I like this. Here's the thing. I think they need something like this mass-produced by some company. When I saw this, I realized how often I want to have a dock at work, or I want to bring it to like a friend's house. And, you know, we've talked about some options, like you have the case or there's different cases to bring your dock around with you. And they sell that other dock where you can, make the smaller version of it.
Right. You take out the innards of the existing dock and putting it into this new shell. Portable shell.
Something like this, though, that actually folds up into a pocketable little device that you could then unfold and set up your Switch to any TV with a lot more ease. I mean, I think that that's something they definitely have to make that would expand the playability at, more situations, like bringing it to your like family's house or taking it to work.
Yeah, there's a definite use case for it. I know there have been numerous times when I've wished I would have brought my dock with me. Mm-hmm. And while the dock is actually pretty portable on its own, something that you can just stuff in your pocket or in a small section of your backpack is, it'd be really convenient to have. So, Casey, Final Fantasy XIV on the Switch. Square Enix has been, quote, tenacious about it.
And I just have to read the quote. This is from
Naoki Yoshida.
He said, conversations have been had with Mr. Phil Spencer of Microsoft and the upper management teams of Nintendo, but I've proposed a condition every time I speak with any platform manufacturers, talking about bringing it to their things, it's that the game has to have the capability of cross-platform play. This is the big hurdle. I just gotta say the big sticking point. It's not necessarily something that's going to be insurmountable, but it is the challenge. We've already seen, though, with things like with Rocket League that Nintendo.
That's the thing, Casey. With a game like Rocket League that was recently announced to support cross-platform play on the Switch, that requirement is definitely feasible for Final Fantasy XIV. I think we're just getting closer to that being a reality.
Now, here's the thing, though. This game is already available on PlayStation. Do you think Sony might give them problems with the game becoming cross-platform with Microsoft and Nintendo consoles, in addition to it's already cross-platform with PC, but do you think that they could cause problems for this game?
I feel like if Square Enix expected problems from Sony regarding this move, I feel like they would have already addressed that. Mm-hmm. Or I feel like it would already be a hurdle and that they wouldn't be able to even talk to Phil Spencer or the upper management of Nintendo in the first place. Mm-hmm. So since Final Fantasy XIV already supports cross-platform play on the PS4 and the PC, they won't really have much ground to hold to prevent Square Enix from bringing this over.
I hope so. I hope that is the case, because I will I don't say this either. I love Sony and I love all the game makers. They do great work. But this, if they get in the way of Final Fantasy XIV coming to Switch, I will hate them. I will become a vigilante, and I swear, they will rue the day they got between me and going into this world again.
That's awesome. Oh man, so you're not going to be a Sony pony?
No, sir. I'll become a Sony brony?
No, a Sony phony.
Oh, okay, there we go. Also, in regards to games coming to Switch that I love, Level 5 has been also furthering their teasing about what they'll bring over to the Switch, and they specified they're considering past projects which might be appropriate for the console.
Right, okay, so that means that they might bring over the original Layton series over to the Switch?
It sounds like that's something they're working on.
What if they even bring that Layton mobile game to to the Switch?
Oh, the Layton Brothers Mystery.
Yeah.
Actually, that wasn't a bad game, and honestly, with it'd be very easy to bring over. And if anyone's not familiar, I forget, this is a whole different crowd. Layton Brothers Mystery Room was just a mystery solving, like a murder mystery game that had nothing to do with Layton originally, and then they just kind of, after they made it, called the main character Professor Layton's son and just made it like that. But it's actually a very solid mystery solving game, and now that you mention it, yes, it would probably be a very good choice for something to bring over, because as we've been saying, mobile games have had a very good time coming over to the Switch because it fits. It's just like a big mobile phone for some games. And that game in particular, it was simple. It's mostly just touch-based. There's text. It's almost a little bit like a Phoenix Wright game, but just they give you the murder scene and literally all the clues to solve it are there. There is no like, oh, well, you don't see this piece of evidence until the third day when the guy reveals it in a courtroom. Literally, the very first thing after they give you the basic storyline is all the clues are there to solve the mystery. And then they just give you time to look at the stuff and figure it out on your own. And then you do the interrogations where more clues come out if you haven't already figured out who the murderer was, which was really kind of a good take on it. And it had a pretty decent little storyline, too.
Hopefully Level 5 figures out what they want to do on the Switch, because it looks like they're really expressing interest. All
right, down the pike, just some games that we got to see this week that are coming to the Switch in the near to mid-distant future. And the first one I saw that really pulled me in is the Count Lucinor, which is by a company I hadn't heard before called Baroque Decay Games. This is a very creepy looking exploration adventure game, and you're this little boy exploring a castle, it looks like, in the dark, and there's like just really weird and obscene things happening, from like demons crawling around in the basement to people's heads talking to you from a fountain, and it's just this really surreal horror, but in the cute pixel art. But I don't know, it looks interesting and strangely artistic too at the same time.
Yeah, and then there's this little puppet Shuppet demon that seems like the iconic character for the game. So yeah, something to check out.
I'm very much, this looks like something that's really up my alley, because honestly, I can't explain why pixel graphics are better at scaring me than even most modern high fidelity horror games.
It's probably because there's a lot that you have to fill in with your imagination. Yeah. And then obviously nothing is scarier to you than what you imagine to be scary to you. Exactly. So there you go.
Blade Strangers?
Blade Strangers. What is this game?
It looks like a brawler fighting game with a lot of characters from stuff I haven't seen actually in a while. I just know that one of the characters I see is Solange. She was the main character from Code of Princess, which was a brawler game that I really did not like for 3DS.
Oh yeah, I know some people liked it.
I found it like extremely poor game. I did not like it at all. I think people liked it because the main character was a mostly nude blonde with giant things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can see that. But this game looks kind of like it's a more typical fighting game on the vein of Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue.
Yeah.
And it looks like it might have the character from Cave Story as well.
Yes, right. So it's by Nicholas, the company that did Cave Story. So it seems like it's going to be kind of a compilation of their property characters. And so it could be interesting on that front just to see those type of characters brought into a fighting game.
Yeah, it's not a very super well-known studio. So it's interesting that they're making a compilation of their own stuff in a fighting game. But, I'll give them the benefit of a doubt whether this game is actually good or not.
Yeah. Night Out, one word.
Yeah, it's a pretty clever name for a game. I'm looking at the trailer for it, and it looks like it is a 2D game with 3D models where you're fighting directly with another person, and you have a set amount of time to build a castle.
It kind of seems
on
like
opposite sides.
If I had to describe the gameplay, it reminds me of a mix between Angry Birds and Rampart.
Right, exactly. So you take a bit of your time to build your castle, and then once that time is up and your castle has been built, you start launching cannons at the other enemy castle in order to knock it down before they do the same to you. And you also have the option to just run in with your character and beat the castle down physically yourself. So
it also kind of reminds me of
interesting.
Rocket Slime.
Rocket Slime. Wow, I have not thought about that game in a while. But
yeah,
you're totally right.
That nothing will match the quirk and awesomeness of Rocket Slime. But this has a few bits that remind
gameplay parallels. I think.
Right. And Original Journey, which is this has this interesting like pencil art style. And you are some kind of tank in a shmup style world, and you customize it with different weapon options as you go along. But it's another one of those procedurally generated level designs that we've been seeing a lot of lately. So just interesting to see what this will be. But some of these games, the art style is sometimes enough to draw attention. Kind of like that Lost Atlantis game that I mentioned before too.
Right. I'm guessing these off-the-wall art styles are really starting to come together on the Switch.
Yeah.
Which, I feel like it's welcome.
Yeah. And we have at least some inkling that the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim looks to be set for late November release on the Switch. And that's based on some Amazon listings that people dug up and a few other things on Steam and such.
Yeah, November sounds like a realistic expectation for Skyrim on the Switch. Mm-hmm. So, based on that Amazon.com leak, it's not impossible.
Yeah. Again, it is a grain of salt, but it makes sense in terms of timing.
Yeah,
too.
The timeline it fits in with that.
And the new releases this week, we have I and Me, which is this kind of cute puzzle game. It kind of reminds me of what's that one? It was that indie game where you control time and you're that dude in the suit.
Braid.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Braid in that it's a platformer puzzle game. It's like that kind of puzzle you see in a lot of action RPGs where as you move, there's another copy of you that moves simultaneously. And you have to and in this case, it's a pair of cats or little kittens. And when you move one, the other moves, and you kind of have to maneuver them as a team through the stages to both end up at the end points. And there's a few little twists in there, but it looks pretty cool and cute, and that's going to be on the eShop.
I do have to say, I'm looking at the trailer, and they have these little cat pop-ups on the side that are looking right at you. And it's supposed to be cute, but it's kind of freaking me out.
Okay. I think
their little eyeballs are staring at me, and I don't want it to be staring at me.
As we mentioned, of course, Oceanhorn and GoNNER are out as of the posting. Fatal Fury 2 hits the eShop. Good old brawler. Can't go wrong with a Fatal Fury punch things until they're down on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And the Zelda DLC Pack 1 is coming out Friday.
Finally, the Master Trial's finally showing up, so you can all dress up like Tingle.
Oh gosh, yes. That's what I've been waiting for.
Yes.
All right, let's segue smoothly into the Community Pulse and get down to business with what the listeners want to hear us talk about.
Okay, smooth transition. Alright, so, Joe Lockhart says, is it worth getting SNES Classic, or should we wait until the online service in the fall? I feel like considering how rare the SNES Classic is, if you have the funds for it and it becomes available to you, I feel like it'd be worth picking up regardless, because the resale value is going to be really easy. But if you're looking to actually just play SNES games, you really have to just consider whether you're actually going to take the time to sit down and play SNES games in front of the TV for extended periods of time. If that's something that interests you, then sure, go for the Classic.
I'd say you don't need the Classic. You could just, wait till you get the ones that you want on the Switch, because honestly, sooner or later you'll get those same games, and it's just a more portable console that will be playing the same games at some point. But I suspect that they're going to hold off on putting some of the titles that are available on the Classic. They're not going to put them on the Virtual Console for a little while.
At least for quite a while. So, Deanti Hancock said, what crazy functions would you like seeing implemented into the next big Switch firmware update? You know what? They should just add Miitomo built into the Switch. Why not?
Oh, there you go. That sounds good. Yeah, that would be a good
let's do that.
Because, who's playing Miitomo anyway? If it came pre-installed on your Switch, people might turn it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Robert Andujar wrote, with majority of the amiibo being from the Wii U era and more so implemented for that system on 3DS, what series would you like to see use amiibo specifically for the Switch?
Probably ARMS. A lot of the characters in ARMS are really charming. And I'd love to see a Bark and Bite amiibo. Wouldn't that be great?
I would probably lean towards some of the, the Nindies have really been clicking with me. And I want to see a Mr. Shifty. I think he'd be really cool as an amiibo.
That would be cool. There is a precedent for indie amiibos.
Yes.
Like the Shovel Knight amiibo.
I gotcha. All right, close this out.
Okay, so now that we're signing off, I definitely want to remind you guys that we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/theswitchcast. It's really helpful to us since we use that money to get review copies of things, keep the servers hosting our podcast, and all of our operational stuff. That's what we use your Patreon contributions for. Please make sure to review us on the Apple Podcast app or wherever you listen. It really helps us get a lot of exposure so we can expand our community and get more people playing games with us on the Discord chat. Speaking of which, please join us on our Discord chat as well. We have an active, booming chat room. And they're all a bunch of great, non-trolly people, and I couldn't be more proud of our Discord chat, so feel free to join us. The link will be in our show notes. And lastly for me, please feel free to email us at casey@theswitchcast.com or jv@theswitchcast.com for any feedback, comments, ideas, etc. that you have. We always check that stuff.
And if you just want to follow and see what we're doing in between these episodes, we are all over social media. You can follow our Twitter @TheSwitchCast. We have an Instagram, instagram.com/TheSwitchCast. We have a Facebook group with almost 1,000 people in it now, and it's active, and there's a lot of, it's kind of our forums. If you like that kind of discussion and comments, that's really a place to go. And there's a link to that in the show notes. We also have in the show notes a SwitchCast friends list. Everyone always posts, first thing they put on the Facebook is, here's my friend code, add me. Simpler way is to just go to the friends list and you can add everyone there or just put your name in there and let us add you. It's great. And we're all on each other's friends list, so there's always someone to join in with the game. And thank you, Essa, for all the music that you've been hearing here. He's a pretty great composer, and we love your tunes. And until next time,
switch it up!